Welcome to the Brad and Taylor Show. Today we have David Hall.
You're listening to the Brad and Taylor Show, a podcast that inspires entrepreneurs to pursue their passions. We're sitting down with some of the best to learn how they got started and some lessons they learned along the way.
How's it going, David?
Good.
Good. We're glad to have you on today.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to be here.
Yep. You want to tell us who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so my name is David Hall, and my goal is to help buyers, sellers, and investors achieve their goals in real estate. So I'm a real estate agent with Keller Williams. I run the Achieve Real Estate team, and that's what we do.
Awesome. So before you actually got to doing that, let's back it up a little bit. Let's figure out, do you want to do that when you were little, or what did you want to do when you grew up?
Yeah, so when I was younger, I had an interest in homes. I wanted to be an architect because I wanted to design homes. I was a big fan of Frank Lloyd and some of the contemporary architecture. And then I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad when I was 16, which is a real estate book about investing. And once I read that, it made me decide to get into investing in real estate. And that was when all the Flip This House shows were really popular. I guess they still are, but that's when they were all coming out.
Yep.
So I wanted to flip houses. So I bought my first house when I was 21. And that led me to investing. That led me to rentals. That led me to getting my license. Now, here we are 10 years later, and I have a portfolio of rentals, and I was able to help 60 buyers and sellers purchase homes or sell homes last year.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Did you do it right out of school? Tell us about your first, your first transaction, and then we'll talk about your first investment property.
So I was 21. I started investing before I was licensed. So the first house I bought, my first real estate transaction was a foreclosure. I bought for $30,000. I thought I'd put $30,000 into it and sell it for $120. Long story short, I had to put $50 into it, and it was only worth $90. So, and it took 18 months instead of 6 months. So definitely a big learning curve. But I think that's kind of what got me to where I am today, because I was able to fail forward from there.
Yeah. How many flips have you done to date?
Probably 25. I did 6 last year, and I've been averaging probably 2 to 5 a year before that.
Yeah. And that's good.
That's awesome.
6 a year. That's a lot.
Are you doing them all yourself, or you have a team of people, or what are you doing?
Yeah, so the first one, it was all me doing everything, and that was miserable. I quickly learned I was not a carpenter, or a contractor of any kind. So more recently, I use crews to do different things. I'm more of the general contractor, so I'll hire a different guy for flooring, for cabinets, for paint, but I'm kind of running the show on all of them. But the less I can swing the hammer on the projects, the better.
Yeah, for sure. So when you got your second one, what is the biggest thing you did differently from when you got your second investment property to that first one where you were kind of doing it all by yourself?
Yeah, so the first one I flipped, or the expectation was that I was going to flip it. And when I finished it and went to list it, I realized that the market was much lower than I expected. So this was in 2009. So there was a lot of motivated sellers, but not a lot of buyers. So I kind of shifted my model. My second purchase was a 4-unit apartment building in Charlotte, Michigan, that I was able to buy on land contract from a motivated seller. And that cash flowed really well. And that got me thinking, if I can make so much money from rental property, maybe I don't need to have a normal 9-to-5 job. So that was kind of my focus moving forward, was how do I scoop up more rentals?
Yeah. When you were flipping originally or getting into the investment, did you still work a 9-to-5? And then you did that on the side?
Yep. Even after I first got my license, I still kept a 9-to-5. I worked for a nonprofit that I had what I call my cubicle job. I would work 9-to-5. Yeah. But I realized that it didn't take 8 hours of time to do the 8 hours of work that were required for me. Mm-hmm. So I spent a lot of my time listening to podcasts, going to YouTube University, and learning how to renovate properties, how to manage properties, how to invest. And so I kind of grew my knowledge for the few years I was at that job, and kind of doing both at the same time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So let's talk about like the switching from that the cubicle job to now doing this full time. Did you have a bunch saved up, or do you say, hey, here's my date, I'm going?
Yeah, did you slowly transition into real estate full time, or was it just one day, no, I'm just going to jump on it, I'm just going to go?
Yeah, so it was meant to be somewhat of a slow transition. There was a lot of factors at play. So I was working at the cubicle job, and then I got my license, and I said, okay, if I can make the same amount of money, my first year license, if I can double my money essentially, or make the same amount as an agent as I was at the cubicle job, then maybe it's a good opportunity for me to, I have a proven concept and I can leave.
Right.
So within 6 months of having my license, I made half as much as I did at my cubicle job. So that was enough for me to move forward. The last step for us was that when you switch jobs from being an employee to being self-employed, you can't get a mortgage. So the last step for us was for us to find a house, because we were expecting our fourth child at the time. And so my wife said, we have to move. Our house is too small, so you can't quit your job until we move. So as soon as we found the house that we were going to move into, we closed on it, and I put in my 2 weeks, and that was that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Like, I know that same scenario because I used to fly a jet, and I remember making this switch. I'm like, well, if we're going to move now, we have to move now before I quit.
How long do you have to wait? I didn't realize there was like a waiting period. How long before, like when you make that transition from self-employed, or you were at an employer and then self-employed, how long is that transition that you have to wait before you can buy your own house?
Yeah, so the bank is going to look at your W-2s for the past 2 years of that industry. So for me being a real estate agent, they would take my last 2 years. So it would take almost 2 years of success in a new industry before they'll actually count that as real income.
Okay. Yeah, so that's a long 2 years. I mean,
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure. So let's talk. When did you get your license then? Did you get it right off the bat, or did you just kind of do all the investment stuff and then?
Yeah, I invested for probably 3 to 5 years before, and then I kind of got disappointed with my agent, as I'm sure investors feel that struggle if they want to go see a house, and agents aren't necessarily excited about showing you 20 houses for $20,000 each. So I decided to get my own license in 2014, and then I could show myself whatever houses I wanted, and then it was a lot of fun showing other people houses. So the more I got into it, the more I started finding success as an agent as well as an investor. And that's what, allowed me to bridge the gap between cubicle job and real estate full-time, was adding the agent piece to it. So now I'm an agent and an investor, and I'm able to do the best of both worlds.
Yeah. When you first started out in real estate, when you quit your 9 to 5, or when you like left that position and you transitioned over, how did you structure your day? Was it like the same pace that you were used to, or did it like completely flip?
Yeah, so that was an important thing. I was taught early on as an agent that you have to have somewhat of a structure. So for me, that was I would take my kids to school and then go get to the office. So I would get there before most people were in the office.
Yeah.
And I would set certain goals for myself. Whether it was to so my first 2 years in, my goal was to have coffee with somebody different every week. So I figured at the end of 2 years, I would have 100 people that I had a one-on-one relationship with, and that would lead to leads and listings and buyers eventually. So that's one thing I did intentionally. I also started running. We have a local real estate investor meeting here that meets in Lansing once a month.
Okay.
And so I got involved with that and ended up leading that group. So as I'm organizing meetings and I'm sometimes doing the speaking, people began to see me more and more as an expert in the field, which made it easier for them to trust me to be their agent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that because I know I saw you posting in the group and I was like, are you running that, or what are you doing? And then all of a sudden I remember, like, next thing I know, like every time I saw you post, I'm like, well, there comes another listing. And all of a sudden it shows up on the schedule. And I was like, well, he's doing something right. So
I know it works. That's kind of my niche. I guess everyone should try to find a niche in real estate. As an agent, it's difficult because you kind of want to help everybody.
Yep.
Because you can't help everybody. But, just like an attorney or a doctor, it's best to probably have some sort of, specialty. So for me, I like helping buyers and sellers with their personal residences, but I think I get fueled up a little bit more helping investors buy and sell investments.
Yeah, awesome. So when you started out doing investing, was there any kind of advice that you got, or did you have a mentor or anything when you started out?
I didn't have a specific mentor. So I read a lot of books, and like I said, I did a lot of YouTube and things to try to figure out what I wanted to do exactly. It's kind of difficult to get started, and some good advice that I found was to build relationships with banks in the beginning and kind of figure out the game that the IRS is playing and that the banks are playing, and then try to build your business model around those parameters instead of just try to do your own thing that doesn't fit into the box, which might make it difficult. So I was able to leverage my relationship to get some private lenders, and then once I bought a property and showed that it was performing well, then banks could trust me to refinance that into bank financing. So now I could buy properties with private money, and then once it's performing, get a loan on it from a bank. And so that kind of allows me to scale beyond my own capacity if I was just using my own money.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. You are running that investor group. What if there was some kind of advice you'd give somebody to just start out into kind of doing investing? What would you give them or tell them, or what would you say?
Yeah, in the beginning, I would say that it's best to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. So for me, that was swinging the hammer myself and going, getting out of work at 5 and then going to my project and working there from 5:30 to 9. That was not always enjoyable.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times I wanted to quit, but getting through that, now I know if a contractor says, such and such is going to take 3 hours, I've done it myself, so I can tell if they're being, accurate or not. So in the beginning, if you're a new investor, I think being uncomfortable is required. So if there's a lot of younger investors that don't have families yet, and I advise them to maybe buy a house and rent out the rooms. So that's less comfortable than having your own space and your own privacy, but it will get you to your goals faster.
Right.
Or if you're gonna flip a house, it might mean you putting in some sweat equity to squeeze out a little bit more profit from that project, which might allow you to do 2 projects next instead of 1. So it just kind of depends on each person's situation. But I think a lot of people get into it thinking it's going to be like flip this house and in a half hour you can make $1 million, and that's just not an accurate reflection of what actually
HGTV expectations, right?
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
What is like probably your worst investment property you got yourself into?
So I'm still not out of it right now.
Oh man.
Okay.
There was one I did some marketing. So we do some marketing to potential motivated sellers to see if anyone wants to sell their house that's not on the market yet. So I got a good deal on a house. The lady's daughter lived there, and so she kind of needed to get rid of it, but she couldn't evict her daughter. So by selling it for a discount, it solved her problem of not having to evict her daughter. So I bought it, and this was summer of 2019 or fall of 2019. So we started working on it, and COVID hit over the winter, and I had kind of put the project on the back burner, thinking I would start it again in the spring of 2020, and then COVID hit, and so things got kind of weird, and some of my lending changed. So I still own it, and it's still not renovated. Luckily, I have a private investor on it that is just accumulating interest, but it went from a potential flip that I was going to make maybe 5 figures on to something I'm probably going to break even or have to potentially refinance, pay my investor back, and then rent it for a while until there's a profit. So it's luckily I'm not upside down on it, but it's definitely stressful. And then
Yeah, for sure.
I was getting quotes to replace the plumbing because it had galvanized plumbing in part of the house. And I went over there with the plumber, and someone in the neighborhood has gracefully removed all the copper plumbing as well.
Oh.
So
yeah.
So things happen, and that project just kind of keeps dragging on. But I'm confident it's going to get wrapped up this year. It was just kind of a rough year to have that on top of COVID, on top of everything else.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you plan on? Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Do you plan on starting back up with it this spring?
That project. Yeah, I got the quote from the plumber now, so I'm able to get started, and I'm selling off some of the rest of my rentals to try to get some money to finish some of the projects that were kind of dragging on through COVID. But I mean, COVID also kind of drove a lot of prices up, so it's a better time to sell. So it might work out in my favor because that same house might sell for 10,000 more this year than it would have last year. So I think everything happens for a purpose. So I'm optimistic about it.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. Do you have a lot of rentals? What do you like doing the rentals, or do you like doing the flips better than investing?
So I like the rentals because it creates a generational plan. I have a lot of kids. We have 5 kids, and we're expecting our 6th one in May.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I want to be able to provide for them, and one way of doing that is buying assets that continue to kick off cash flow, whether I'm here or after I'm gone. So I have 50 rentals right now, and the goal was to get to 1,000, which I don't know if that's the goal anymore. I think I still want that amount of cash flow, but there's other avenues I'm pursuing to try to get it outside of just passive income from rentals or in real estate. But once I grew to a point of having so many rentals, the management of it got to be a little stressful. So I brought on some staff to help. And as we're growing our staff, we're able to grow our capacity, and I'm getting out of the property management more and more, which frees me up to pursue investing more and more. So I think it's going to be good moving forward if I continue to delegate.
Yeah. When if you could start over from the very beginning and you had $1,000 in your pocket and that's all you had, how would you spend it? Like, what would you do differently from the very beginning when you first started out in investments?
So the $1,000 I would probably spend on coffee and dinner and drinks, taking people out and building relationships, because that's where a lot of,
Yeah.
I think, the main investment strategy and success that I found comes by investing as a team sport and not a solo
Mm-hmm.
play. So I think my biggest mistake was probably on that first one. Yes, I learned a lot, but had I been able to, find a private lender that could fund the whole renovation, I could have gotten it done in my 6-month time frame instead of 18 months.
Yeah.
I would have, in and out of it a lot sooner, and maybe in that same time I could have done 2 or 3 more deals in the same amount of time. So going back, I think I would have put even more emphasis on building relationships and following up with those people, and kind of staying top of mind for all investors and all people that were interested in investing.
Yeah. I know you were saying earlier that you made a goal to have coffee once a week with someone different for the whole year. Did you find that strategy played off in the long run? Just building those relationships?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that, and I'd go to coffee with people. They'd see me at the meetings. I'm getting more involved with the meetings. All of those things kind of built into a reputation that, Dave's an investor guy, and if you need an agent, he can help you with that. If you just need advice on an investment or anything like that, they could come to me. So a lot of the coffees were, I don't want to say worthless, but weren't exactly what I wanted. You would go to somebody and they would never buy anything, and they would ask questions that they, or I actually bought Rich Dad Poor Dad, that book.
Yeah.
And I gave it to 20 people, I think, and no one read it. So I stopped giving it out, so there's people ask for advice, but don't act on it. So that was kind of frustrating. But in between some of those types of people, and I understand most people are that way, but in between there were some people that I was able to help, which was fulfilling, and then there was also people that, might have money, but not have the time, that ended up becoming partners of mine. So it definitely was fruitful, and I wish I would have done it, twice as much of it. But it wasn't all roses and glamour either.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. What kind of a book would you what is your favorite book?
So Rich Dad Poor Dad is normally the one that I go to first. The E-Myth by Michael Gerber is also my top 3. Kind of creating a business instead of being the business, which is way easier said than done. The Richest Man in Babylon is another one of my top 3 books. It just talks about proper money management and how you can use money to work in your favor if you don't squander it. So those are the top 3 I recommend.
Awesome. Yeah, those are pretty good.
Yeah.
I read all those. I've
got a random question for you.
Taylor's got a random question.
Super random.
Let's go for it.
Has nothing to do with what we've been talking about. Do you think that a hot dog is a sandwich? And then you have to explain why.
I wouldn't think so. No.
No? Why not?
Because it's got a unique side bun to it. I feel like a sandwich is bread on top, bread on the bottom.
Yeah.
But then I question, is a hamburger a sandwich?
Right? Yeah. It's got. They've got the layers to it.
No, I'll have to reflect on that.
Yeah. We don't know the answer. We just like to ask that one.
Yeah. Awesome. Is there anything else you want to share with everyone before we go?
No, I think that I just want to do a plug for Windowsill. I appreciate the photos that you guys take, and I think as an investor, it allows to put a little more icing on the cake when I do get a listing, whether it's a flip or a house for a client. If we're able to sell it and present it right at the beginning in the best light, you get a lot more interest, which hopefully equals more offers, which equals your, as a seller, your choice of which offer you want to accept, rather than I've seen some terrible photos out there. And I've actually bought some houses because the agent marketed it poorly. So I think that Windowsill is one of the reasons that I was able to make money on some of my investments. So I just wanted to put that out there and say thanks for all the hard work.
Yeah, I did the same exact thing. I bought the house that we're currently in. We were the only offer, and it was the only one in the neighborhood that didn't sell, that didn't have tons of offers. It was the only one with cell phone photos. I was like, those are the ones when you want to buy a house, that's what you look for.
Yeah.
So, awesome. Well, thanks for coming on and joining us today.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Are these working?
All right.
There we go.
Oh, there we go. I think they're working. Should we tell them?
Mine keeps falling. It doesn't like my voice.
What do we got to tell them?
Subscribe.
Subscribe? What do we got to point at it? Hey, I think there's a subscription button.
It might be there.
Might be right there too.
Somewhere.
Somewhere.
Find it. It's red.
Yeah. And it's
Red.
blue. It's green. I don't really know.
It's a color.
This mic isn't even attached. Did you plug these in? Well, I guess,
I wonder if they can hear us.
yeah. I wonder if they hear us. Well, we should probably tell them if they can hear us. We should probably tell them also give us a 5-star review for listening to on Apple. That'd be cool.
5
5-star
stars,
review.
guys.
Share it with everybody they can think of.
We won't take
But-
4 stars.
I mean, Taylor, I don't even think these are on. I mean,
No, I don't think this is working.
This is not working.